We really want to help athletes, unlock their best selves.
I have a feeling if I used the app, it would say, maybe you should try a different sport.
After you shoot, it may say, hey, you need a lot of work, right? Nike represents like the victory, but like grind is not that. When she goes behind the scenes where it's dark, she turns on the lights and she's by herself, nobody can see her. That's what grind is. Right? How do I create a brand that really resonates with, basketball players first and foremost, right? What I really want to, show kids through our products. How do I want to, make them feel? I just came up with like, hey, I really want them to understand that, our products are meant to help them put in work the best way possible, right?
Welcome back to Forging the Future, and today we have an incredible guest who's changing the game literally. Thomas Fields is the founder and CEO of Grind, where he's developed the world's first portable basketball rebounding machine. And he's not just an entrepreneur, he's an innovator on a mission to revolutionize sports equipment and make a positive impact on communities. Thomas, thanks for being on the show today.
Chris, thank you. I'm happy to be here. It's exciting.
Grind's an interesting name for a startup. I think most startups are grinding, so it's very apropos. How did you come up with that name?
Grind, the name. I think that it just, one, I was a basketball player and very inspired by, the work that it takes to succeed. I was, self-proclaimed, the hardest worker in the gym, right? So the Kobe mindset, all that stuff, I loved it and I ate it up. And yeah, out of that, creating a, sports tech company, I was like, how do I create a brand that really resonates with, basketball players first and foremost, right? What I really want to, show kids through our products. How do I want to, make them feel through our products? And I just came up with like, hey, I really want them to understand that, our products are meant to help them put in work the best way possible, right? And Grind was kind of at the center of the ethos and the mindset that I wanted those kids, athletes, coaches to enter whenever they used our products or touched our products. So Grind was kind of like the first step in how I want to portray the brand to the community and to the world, And I think Grind also spans outside of sports, and I'm really big on that, right? Where going from basketball to, self-taught mechanical engineer to tech, it was just really Grind was at the center of all these things, right? So it fit into the mission that, I want to use sports as a vehicle to inspire kids to go into tech and engineering and things like that. So,
why sports? I mean, you were a basketball player, right? So.
I was a basketball player. Played basketball starting, I think, at 7 years old, and just fell in love with the game. Had dreams of going to the NBA and, making it to the big leagues. And I was pretty good. I was ranked in the city and getting some accolades and things like that, and made varsity freshman year here in Houston, and had the top 100 rankings, all that good stuff, and ended up tearing my ACL sophomore year. Devastated, couldn't play ball for 6 months, 8 months. Came back stronger than ever, started dunking. I was doing great, toured again. And came back and toured again, and senior year toured again. And throughout the whole process, right, the mindset was Kobe, right? Just be the greatest, be the best you can possibly be. But these injuries were physically preventing me from moving forward. But there was this machine that existed. It was called the gun, right? It was $10,000, 400 pounds, and what it did was you would roll it out, push it out onto the court. Usually, the school would buy it or raise money to purchase this thing, and it would get your rebounds and automatically pass the ball back out to you. You get 1,000 shots an hour, right? And I really needed this thing because I was, trying to recover as fast as possible from these injuries. And I never had access to it. So that's kind of where the idea came, where, where are the companies that are designing products specifically designed for athletes, and, really solving our problems, not just selling these things for 10 grand. So that's kind of how it started.
As an entrepreneur, I know the importance of proactive legal advice. Hunton Andrews Kurth has been a leader for over 120 years, offering top-notch support in energy, finance, real estate, and retail. They handle problems like their own. Hunton Andrews Kurth, they get it done. So you traded the dream of being a professional basketball player to dreaming about how can I build this business to give other basketball players access to something you never had in your own journey. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But how did you get from there to Shark Tank?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, welding and building the prototype was obviously first, and used my parents' garage as the starting point, the launching pad. And, while we were in Red Labs, that's kind of was our headquarters. And met our first investor from kind of that pitch night. And
the pitch night where?
This was TMCX.
Okay.
Yeah, TMCX. I like to say Grind was born in TMCX because it's a medical center, right? So I treat it as a baby.
Is that why? It seems unlikely though. You've got like a sports tech company. Why were they interested in your product?
Which Red Labs?
Well, you said TMCX, which is the medical center accelerator. Right?
Yeah, so Red Labs was stationed out of TMCX. So now I'm looking at Brain Check, and I'm looking at all these cool companies that have 20 employees, and I'm like, what are these guys doing? What are these guys doing, right? So I'm in the mix. So it's just great.
I didn't remember that they were there back then.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just inspiring to be around really great, tech and companies that are building revolutionary things, right? And I had a passion for, building that in the sports world, right? One day, we end up moving, we actually go to TXRX was our second home. So our first home, I would say. It was our first office space where we would 3D print, and it's a maker space here in Houston. And that's where I kind of went from welding in the garage to, okay, now I can 3D print, now I can laser cut, plasma cut, the welding is the easy stuff now, like this is fun, right? So we're rapid prototyping and iterating and just learning, right? I end up pulling 5 interns from Rice and 5 interns from U of H, and now have a 10-person team, and we're going, right? We have a small investment, but we're nimble. So that was kind of, the second leg. And my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, she sends me a text, and then she calls me, and she's like, hey, check your email right now. I'm like, okay. And it says Shark Tank, ABC. And there's an email that they want to interview. Interview 1 is what they called it. So I was like, oh my God, how did we get this? She's like, I forgot that I signed you up like 2 years ago. I was like, whoa. So
that's when you knew she was a keeper?
That's I just got on my knee at that point.
Yeah, that's right.
I went through the interview process, and that's how kind of we jumped into Shark Tank at that point. So, yeah.
How long did it take from the first interview to when you were on TV?
About a year and a half.
Really?
Yeah, about a year and a half. There was about 7 interviews with producers, co-producers, so on and so forth. And then it was actually 2020, so it was the middle of COVID. So I had to quarantine for 2 weeks. That was actually great, though, because I was able to practice my pitch and perfect it. From the date of walking out and pitching the Sharks, it took about a year for that episode. Was it worth it?
Do you think it was worth the time and the effort of doing the show?
I think so, yeah. What I didn't expect is the amount of re-airs Shark Tank puts out and how that affects our traffic on the website. That was really interesting to see. We'll just see a random spike of like 10,000 visitors to our site, and we're like, oh, I think Shark Tank just aired. you know? So that's always great. It gave us a lot of credibility as a young company, building something, interesting in the basketball space. There's not a lot of companies doing that in the basketball space. There's, a handful, and we're the ones that were on Shark Tank. So it definitely differentiated us. So yeah, I think it definitely helped.
Well, let's fast forward a little bit. I mean, what's really going on now with Grind? I mean, you're building a smart ecosystem for sports equipment, right?
Yes.
So what's the latest?
I think, right now this was the first year that we were in inventory all year. So we're really excited about that. That was a huge milestone for us.
What does it mean in inventory?
Staying in inventory, just
having product
being
inventory.
able to meet the demand.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so that was really big for us. We were always in this stop and go pre-order phase, right, where it felt like there was a lot more demand, but we couldn't even capture that demand because we didn't have stock, or we were 30 days,
How did you solve? I mean, with hardware companies, one of the biggest hurdles is solving the cost.
Yeah.
How did you solve the inventory issue? Because one of the biggest things with hardware startups is you have to finance inventory, and often you have to buy a lot of quantity. They call it MOQ,
Sure.
minimum order quantity.
Yep.
You have to buy 1,000 of these, and now you got to put them in a warehouse and then sell them. So how did you handle that part?
I think it was 2, maybe 3 things. The first thing was we did not spend a lot of money on ourselves and development. It was all, we were the developers in a sense, right? The hardware, engineering, we didn't use a really big, firm or anything. It was really just us, 3D printing and laser cutting and welding the metal together. So startup cost was essentially our time, right? Some of the materials, but I was able to work a few odd jobs on the side and fund just the metal and buy a compressor and, the hardware parts. The second thing I think that helped us actually stay in inventory was, as we were raising money, right? We went through a round right before Shark Tank, right before Techstars and right after Techstars. And a lot of that capital, I was hoping we could use for growth, but a lot of it went towards, staying in inventory and trying to keep up with demand, and fixing all the issues that happen whenever you go from selling 100 units to 1,000 units and 5,000 units, right? So it was a lot of fixing issues, putting out fires, and staying in stock, right? Delivering on our promise to our customers and delivering, the best product. So now, I mean, we think that every athlete in the world should have a grind machine in their backyard. We're excited. We're proud of the product now, right? I think a lot of it, it was in the beginning just, putting it out and iterating, getting out to the customer.
And I think I didn't really ask you to talk about exactly what it is. We alluded to it with the machine that you first developed. So what is it's a portable basketball.
Sure. Yeah. So what it is it's a portable basketball rebounding machine. You set it up within 30 seconds underneath any basketball goal. So you can be at the park, at your house. Sets up to be a 12-foot tall machine. It has a 12-foot tall net, has a passing mechanism at the bottom that automatically passes the ball back out to you after it captures your made or missed shots. So essentially, instead of shooting on a hoop and spending hours trying to reach 1,000 shots or 500 shots.
Because you have to chase the ball.
You have to chase your rebounds.
If you don't have a little brother that can...
Exactly, yeah. So, good luck with that, right?
Yeah, right.
So now you have a shooting machine, is what we call it, right? But now it's portable. It's the most affordable on the market. It's
How
now
much is
accessible.
the retail on it? MSRP?
Yeah, so they're usually between 8 to 10 grand. Ours is right under 2 grand. Wow. Yeah, so it was the first kind of at-home model. We were the first to bring, payment plans and Affirm to the home consumer. Right now we're the fastest growing shooting machine, in the world, I guess,
fantastic.
right? But yeah, it's really exciting.
And I stopped you at the inventory part. I mean, what else what else is new at Grinds?
Yeah, so we're developing software. So that's really the
Wait, that's my territory.
Hey, yeah. So IoT based, right? So the grind machine would connect to the app, and we've really leaned into what our customers do when they buy a machine, right? So we really have two customer segments. So the first is a athlete. They want to track their made and missed shots. They want to track their data over time. They want to just get better and be their best self, right? So we allow athletes on the app to track the user, growth. And then we have trainers and coaches, right? And they like to monetize on just off of the machine because now they have a shooting machine in their, backyard or at their gym, right? They have two grind machines because now they're affordable and they're portable. So they announce it to the world and they're saying, hey, come use our machine and you can use it for, $20 an hour, right? So on that side, we're helping, business owners and, trainers and coaches, gym owners to, monetize their community, if you will, right? So we're just kind of putting that all in one package for customers, and rolling that out, very soon.
Okay.
So that's been in the works all year. But the vision is to really create a smart ecosystem of products that all tie into this grind app that help basketball players, and maybe we go into soccer players and coaches and trainers there, right? But we really want to help athletes, unlock their best selves.
I have a feeling if I used the app, it would say, maybe you should try a different sport.
After you shoot, it may say, hey, you need a lot of work, right? But it'll take in 1,000 data points, right? Just off of your shots and, how you shoot, and it'll be honest with you for sure.
I think that as we get a little further along here, software and hardware will have a personality,
Yeah.
right? And right now it really doesn't.
Yeah.
I always thought driving apps and should have personalities. They give like voices, but I think they should have personalities, and it should start insulting you or screaming at you when you miss it. Look, that's the third time you missed this turn. I'm just, I'm not even going to tell you what to do unless you can follow it.
I love it.
Or have some, comedian just roasting you because you're like, that was the worst turn I've ever seen.
That's part of the brand, right? It's part of the company speaking to the customers and making them feel however, the company should make that user feel, right?
Yeah.
And to me, I've always, used my coach Henderson, my high school basketball coach. It was like, if I can put Coach Hendo, is what we call him.
Mm-hmm.
We can put Coach Hendo in a hardware software product. How would we do it, right? Yeah. What are the little things that he would say, right? Would he?
You would definitely want it to be more encouraging than I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
So you got this.
Yeah, but you also have to be hard on him, right? So it's a great mix where it's motivational. You want to have that best friend coach that's gonna have your best interests in mind, and that's grind, right? That's really what we want to do.
Yeah, you don't really want to have the mom coach that's going to tell you you're doing great, right? Every shot.
Yeah,
right?
So you need that constructive criticism, right?
So you're rolling out a mobile app, then
Yeah.
you're adding sensors to the hoop so you can tell whether you made the shot or didn't make the shot.
Yeah, exactly. So right now we can track all the shots taken. We're adding a sensor to help track all the shots made. We've developed an automatic rotation system and a multi-ball system where you can use, 4 or 5 basketballs. You can click a, pro workout, and the machine that physically takes you through that workout.
How did you approach that? I mean, again, you're not a software developer.
No,
So what did you do, and when you realized, hey, I want to add this to my product?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time coming for sure. So we've been in the market for 4 years with no software, and we've done well. But yeah, it's definitely shown that I'm not software driven, very much hardware focused. So, I mean, the way I approached it was definitely lean into my strengths. We have limited, capital, resources, and time as startups, right? So, what do you do to survive? And you have to launch and lean into your strengths and, make sure that your strengths are strong enough to get you through the weaknesses, right? I think, and, at the end of the day, make more money than you spend right now, at least. And everybody's different. All startups and businesses are different, but, we're at that stage where, we want to build it to be healthy and sustainable right now. And I think that'll set us up to really, control the growth and go as fast as, we would like.
At Softtech, we don't just follow the trends, we set them. As the founder and CEO, I've built a team that excels in delivering cutting-edge solutions in software, hardware, and IoT. From concept to completion, we're the partner that turns your tech dreams into reality. Softtech, where innovation starts. Well, you've accomplished so much as a young man and a young entrepreneur. Do you have any maybe specific advice to like a founder that's starting out, especially those that might be facing obstacles similar to those that you faced?
Yeah, I love talking to founders about, how to navigate different challenges. I think the challenges are kind of, that anxiety gets me excited to figure out how to go around it, right? Because at the end of the day, you're kind of in control in some areas, right? But
so you're turning anxiety into motivation? Is that what you're doing?
I think so. I was talking to a friend the other day, and I was like, that feeling that a lot of people talk about, like they don't like, it makes them feel weird and anxious. I think I like that feeling. I don't know if we're feeling the same thing, but I think I like that feeling. And sometimes I don't. But I think for the most part, I enjoy that adrenaline rush, right? That just it just excites me and gets my brain turning and the gears turning. So maybe lean into that. I don't know.
Yeah, leaning into that is an important point because I've heard this a couple different times before with different scenarios. So, for example, the comedian or the talk show host or someone going out on a stage that gets that nervous, energy and anxiety you're talking about, but actually, like you said, leaning into it and treating that like, I'm excited for this, I'm pumped up for this, I'm going to do this, and kind of turning it to where it's something that's more beneficial, motivational. Mm-hmm. I've also heard people that say, for example, we're dieting and then we're hungry and having that feeling of hunger, but then leaning into the fact that like, oh, I'm hungry, and so this is actually helping me with my goal and actually liking that feeling instead of treating it like a feeling like I'm not happy to have.
Interesting.
What I mean? So
interesting.
Interesting point.
Whenever you said that, I was in 10th grade, and that's when it happened. We were playing the #1 basketball team in the country, and they were here from Houston, so we had to play them. We weren't that great, but I turned to Coach Henderson and I said, "Coach, I'm nervous." He said, "No, you're not nervous. You're ready." And I was like, "Really? You think so?" Like that was kind of the turning point. I ended up having like 15 points as a freshman. That was great. I did really good. And we only lost by like 5 points. At that point, those guys were blowing everybody out by like 100 plus. So it turned out great. But at that moment, I was like, wow, that really changed my perspective on feeling nervous. It actually tells your body, or you should tell yourself that you're ready, and it turn it into a positive.
Is there anything else that you lean into when you come up against something where trying to accomplish your goals or the going gets tough?
Yeah, just kind of do the hardest thing first.
Eat the frog.
Yeah, that's a great.
Have you ever heard that phrase?
I haven't, no, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, just do the hardest thing first.
Frog is the thing on the list that you just really don't want to do. Just you got to eat the frog.
Yeah. I think that's and once you do that, you'll feel so much more fulfilled, and the weight will be off your shoulders. You don't want to do it though. You really don't want to do it, but you just forget about everything and do it. And it pays off. It really does. I've noticed that in the past year of getting through challenge after challenge. Just eat the frog. That's a perfect quote right there. So
Well,
yeah.
you're besides being the father and founder of your startup, you're also a new dad.
Yes,
So
yes.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That is an awesome part of my best
How,
part of my
how,
life.
how has that changed your maybe your perspective or your work ethic or
Yeah. No, it's changed a lot for sure. Um, I definitely have adjusted my work kind of cadence right around my son, my wife a lot more. And I'm new to it, so I've just been trying to figure it out at the end of the day. But I'm trying to take notes and keep it centered as much as possible. So it's definitely adjusted my work schedule, right? As far as my motivation, when I started Grind, I was really starting it for my younger self, so it's constantly thinking back to when I was 15, right? But now, I'm a little older and it's a lot, it's just more fulfilling and a better thought of designing for my son, right? Or daughter, right? Jeremiah is 2 years old. So, I think about, okay,
doesn't
when
have his 3-pointer yet?
doesn't have his 3-pointer yet. I'm like, okay, how does Grind live in this young man's life, for the next 10 years, right? And how will it live in, kids' lives, beyond the millions of kids, right, around the world. So, that's where the kind of the positive impact comes from, and just really designing for, him in a sense where I started it for myself, but now I'm kind of thinking of him a lot more. So, really using basketball and sports as kind of like a touch point to start getting them to think about STEM, right? And entrepreneurship and really nerdy things that I think are awesome, right? But just disguising it in a cool way where they'll listen and just naturally go in that direction, right? I feel extremely grateful that I had parents that were guiding me on the right way, towards the right path, right? And a lot of kids, where I come from and kids I know, they didn't have those guiding factors. So I'm like, what if Nike did that maybe? Like maybe Nike would like really change the world if they took a stronger stance on that.
On which
And
part specifically?
on using their influence to guide kids in things outside of sports, right? And I know it's kind of contradictory. It kind of fights each other where you're trying to sell to get them to the big shiny NBA, right? Or just these leagues, right? But the reality of 99% of them aren't going to make it, right? So what do they do after that? So maybe Grind lives in their life in a way where there's a transition, product, or there's a transition inspirational, maybe it's the software, right? And there's a personality that's, intentional about their life after basketball, right? And how Grind does not stop with basketball, but it actually moves much more than that, right? And it goes into their life, and they could take it into their life in other ways, right? So yeah, I'm very interested in how we can accomplish that. I think that's our mission, but
I like that.
yeah,
I
it's
think
interesting.
you're right that okay, 1% are going to get to the big game,
for sure.
and sure, you need to follow that path. But if along the way you're learning life lessons that you can then use once either you decide that path's not for you, or those opportunities and doors close, whether you wanted them to or not.
Sure. Yeah.
And you learned how to program, or you learned how to run a business, or you learned something about STEM.
Yeah.
I think it's an important point. I mean, yeah, why wouldn't, or why
Right.
couldn't someone
Right.
like Nike actually say, look, it's more than just about playing the game, right?
Right.
There's the game of life, right?
Yeah.
And so how do we educate these kids that are in school to, do more than just practice their hoops, right?
Absolutely. And use everything they've learned to conquer the real world and be great citizens and, innovate and just, yeah.
There's a lot of that you learn from sports about being a good citizen and a good person and motivation and perseverance and the grind. I mean, there's so many things that you do learn about life, but but then also taking that and saying, and then here are some other things. There's a definition of an entrepreneur that is someone that is willing to try something new and fail at it. Right, and so this is something I think sometimes the marketing agencies behind brands like Nike don't really show the failure part of it so much. Sometimes it pops up in their ads, but then the end result is like, now I
exactly. Yeah, one thing that me and Elliot, our co-founder at Grind, he's the head of engineering. One thing that he said that really stuck with me, and we kind of embody grind, right? But it's hard to communicate it in words, right? He said Nike represents like the victory, right? You're always gonna see, that guy, the girl who wins the championship, and she has the Nike on, and she's holding up that trophy, right? But like grind is not that. We're actually, when she goes behind the scenes where it's dark, she turns on the lights and she's by herself. Nobody can see her, right? That's what grind is, right? So maybe our commercial is a little different, right? It's all about that scene. And, maybe she has a grind backpack on the floor and she's holding up the trophy, but she looks back at that grind backpack and she knows what time it is. It's time to go back to the grind to keep going, right? But grind is not on the podium. She is. Grind's behind the scenes. So I think that's the mindset behind it, right? And even if you see in the logo, I created the logo at TMCX.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it right here. But the N is missing on purpose, right? And I like to say the N, he's out in the back working, right? You can't. He's never up front. He's always behind the scenes, right?
I like that.
And like the grind, it represents that the grind that nobody sees separates the good from the great.
Because he was back there, and according to his app, his grind app, says he took 487,000
there
shots.
You go.
Right?
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
In order to win that game eventually, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, that's kind of where we're headed. That's what we're doing, and just building products that can try to scream that feeling through hardware and software products.
Okay, so Thomas, your shirt says Grind Day. What
Yes.
was that about?
Yeah, so we were presented our own day in the city of Houston. Last year was our first year, and this year was August 12th. Every year is August 12th. So Grind Day, again, just another extension of how we want to help athletes and, kind of give back to the community at the same time. So we host a back-to-school event at our warehouse over in the east end of downtown, where we do a 3-point competition and hand out cash prizes. We gave away 300 backpacks with back-to-school supplies to kids in the community. And then we invite TXRX and just like tech out, and they set up a booth, and we have vendors and food, and just try to introduce kids to tech, right? 3D printing, laser cutting, building things, and basketball and sports. So just trying to push that mission forward as much as possible. So yeah, that's
Is it important, do you think, that startups focus on community service?
So I guess it depends, right? Like that's where our customer base is. It ties into who we sell to. It ties into the community where I come from, our mission, right? So these things are definitely aligned. There's definitely startups out there that are maybe fintech, right? And it doesn't make sense for them to do that. That is definitely a road, and you can build a massive business without building a community. But for us, we're a consumer brand. It's very important to build community, I think, and just brand affinity, and doing that with an authentic cause, an authentic purpose, definitely shows and helps build the community for sure.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. Very excited to watch you on your journey and see what's next for Grind.
Yeah,
I do have some socks for you. I like to give out socks. I've got my geek socks.
Some.
These are my geek socks. You get the jock socks.
Nice. I love it.
Nike basketball.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate it. Love it.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. Yeah. No. And yeah, grindbasketball.com is where they can find us. If anybody knows any basketball players, if you come across any basketball players, show them our way.
Perfect.
Cool.
Thanks, Thomas.
Thank you.
I know how important staying informed is for innovation and growth. The Forging the Future newsletter brings you the best in tech trends, startup advice, and industry insights. Join our community and forge your future with us. Subscribe now.